Success is always relative to the resources that are available.
The University of Arizona lost one of its innovators this week. Former University President Henry Koffler died at the age of 95. Koffler was the first U of A alumnus to become its president, and it was one of just many feats. Koffler asked former U of A Provost George Davis to write his obituary. In his own words, Davis shared with us his late friend's legacy.
It's pretty extraordinary. He arrives in 1939 in New York City with $5 in his pocket, has an aunt in Prescott, Arizona. I think the high school teacher in Prescott said, "Henry, we need to send you to the University of Arizona." He graduates in 3 years. He then goes on and gets his master's and PhD at University of Wisconsin, goes to Purdue, and becomes the youngest full professor ever appointed at Purdue at age 29. Henry told me on a couple of occasions he always felt a sense of urgency, even when he was a young man. He had a sense of how time can escape and that the creative years are really important. He remained creative all of his career. But even when he was a young man, a young student, a graduate student, a department head, he just felt a sense of urgency that accomplishments needed to be made.
But I think the people who plan on being presidents when they're young, I think they ought to go and see a psychiatrist.
But I think he was so well suited to the appointment because he was an extremely strong scientist who had demonstrated capacity for leadership in extraordinary ways in the biological sciences at Purdue. Henry understood and emphasized that you hire talented people across campus and then you need to support them. And part of the support would be classrooms, laboratories, studios, the kind of facilities that really make a difference.
My vision of the future university must include extensive new and refurbished space as a major encouragement to the academic enterprise.
His belief system was threefold. He was adamant about the importance of land-grant public universities. Public universities meant the world to him. He understood that private colleges are also important, but nothing thrilled him more than standing at the podium at commencement and seeing, say, 4,000 students graduate and go out into the world and have impact. Henry felt strongly in this first belief system that democracy is dependent upon access and high-quality public education. And second, as everybody knows, he was a talent scout. He basically had the highest standards in reaching out to hire faculty, deans, department heads, whoever. And then he attempted to basically create a kind of a freedom, although he could be autocratic at times, but he tried to create an environment where they could do their best work. And the third thing, which I love about Henry, and he articulates it, you need to be able to grasp fleeting opportunities. I would say you need to have the courage to do that. But he understood that when he was a young student, you know, presidents would stay in office for decades. He understood that when he came in to be president, the whole culture of university leadership had changed, and you can be a president for just a short time. Again, the urgency.
My general outlook is that it's up to people like me to provide the best possible education, research, and public service at the lowest cost, if at all possible.
It was an honor to sit with him and to basically learn some of the details of his core values and how he functioned. Let me give you an example. He says, one of the challenges in a public university is to apply entrepreneurial thinking to a public function.
But if I were to make a decision today, every student in the university will have to be trained in computers, 25,000 students. How are we going to do that? Do we have the money to do that? Do we have space to do it, equipment to do it, and so on? You can see the formidable problems that are before us.
Using public money. How do you do that? That is, and he was very sensitive to not only the need to do it well, but also to do it in a way that was marked by strong ethics. And his backbone for that, so to speak, lay in peer review and in analytics and in common sense. So many of his internal instincts were related to curiosity and passion for things. He loved people.
I believe in human dignity. All human beings are born before God, have the same rights,